I'm always fascinated when Drag Race decides to break tradition with how many queens they send to the finale. Since season 9, the show has typically brought 4 queens to the finale, where previously it was always 3. I think this change from 3 to 4 was a healthy one. 4 is a nice round number, and in a sea of talent, I think it makes the finale a little less predictable on who's gonna win. There's one more ingredient to this soup. Which one of those 4 is gonna take it? There's usually one queen where it's so obvious that they're not gonna win, and then one queen that's a very clear front runner, an underdog, and maybe someone that's a foil to all of them. And since that time of season 9, only 3 seasons have deviated. Season 12, which could only send 3 queens to the finale for logistical reasons, there was a disqualification and it was airing during lockdown, so there was really no reason to call in Jackie Cox and have her participate, even though they probably should have. Season 14, 2 of the front runners landed in the bottom in the semi-final. They were not gonna send home Willow or Angeria, and I think the one person that they wanted to send home, Betty, objectively killed that music video challenge, and there was no way they could send her home. So they made it a top 5. And then season 16 rolled around, and I think they just didn't like Q. I think they were mad that they kept her around for such a long time, and they didn't want her to go to the last episode. Realistically, there's no logical reason why it needs to be a top 3, why it couldn't just be a top 4 all the time. But when they whittle it down to a certain number of contestants, it's very clear that they've got a plan on what they want to do. It's kind of like what happens in the All-Stars format. And we can speculate all day long on why seasons break from this format, but there's really no point in bringing it to 3 when you could just leave it at 4. Again, it makes that chance of one front runner winning maybe a little less obvious. And I think that the Latino curse is super pervasive, and that's why Juicy got cut. Unless they can be made fun of for their accent, or unless they are super white presenting, that being they don't talk about being Latino, they don't make it a part of their identity on the stage, they don't celebrate that too much in front of Ru & Co., then they'll go to the finale, and I think that's why Jules went to the finale last season. And I remember mentioning that I felt like Jules lost the crown as soon as she started talking about her Latino pride. I just don't think the show is very kind to Latinos, and I've said that for years. I say that as someone who is like 75% Mexican. And so this is my axe to grind on the show, and I can already feel the dislike button being hit. I can feel the moronic comments already getting typed that not everything is about race, because people love to self-report that they don't like Latinos. And you know what? If you feel that way, you're not welcome in this space, so get the out of here. I don't care about your racist bullshit. I'm gonna speak my truth because I'm so tired of Latinos always getting dust on this show. We have, what, 1 Latino winner, and that's Bianca. And you know what? I am so happy that Ginger Guadalupe Ramona Jimenez Hernandez y todo y más is so proud of her Latino culture, but that's not a part of her drag. And it's not really even what Bianca presented too much on the show. The only time that she brought it up was making fun of being Latino. Again, if Ru & Co. can make fun of it, you'll go to the finale. That's why they liked Alexis Mateo so much. They were able to tease her. I'm done. And anyway, I think that's why Juicy went home. I just don't think that they were ever going to send her to the finale. I think they celebrated her and gave her the flowers where they did, because I think they were investing in her early, maybe to set up some kind of story that they just never saw to fruition, or they got bored with, or maybe they just decided to randomly switch gears as soon as Snatch Game happened. Anyways, hi, hello everyone, my name is Jer, and your dad said that the cake in the fridge you can take home if you want it. I had a bout of food poisoning last night, so I feel like garbage. Drink ceremony is just gonna finish off my pink lemonade, and we're gonna do a raspberry seltzer. I need something fizzy or I'm gonna die. Before we begin, I want to thank all my patrons and Extravaganza Extra members for supporting this page. Thank you for helping me continue to do this. I want to clarify a little bit of what I said last week, because there were a lot of people who I think purposefully misunderstood. So we're gonna lock in, and let's preface all of this by saying Drag Race is an edited TV show.
What?
It is TV before it's competition, whether we want it to be or not. That's what it is. When the show begins and is airing, the queens perform as they do, and the people on the ground have an idea of what they want to happen in the season, and they gently nudge directions. They make challenges happen a certain way, they assign pairs in a certain way, they stir up the pot and the drama by asking them questions in confessional to guide a narrative, and they make subtle choices on the ground to make that happen. And then in post, a team of editors sit down and look at the season on a whole. They say, these are the finalists, these are the stories that we need to make happen. So they start to craft whatever narrative they want about them. We get queens like Mikey, who are a finalist and start to get their flowers at the end of the season, but for the whole first half, they keep pulling the rug out from underneath her. The editors show us her having great moments with RuPaul and then not getting the wins, so it's a huge misdirection on who is going to win the challenge. They could have cut all that. They didn't need to show us those pieces, but they do. They make it seem like Mikey is constantly getting undercut so that she appears as an underdog, but that's not her narrative at all. Her conversation in this episode talking about how she got placed unfairly in the bottom during Rada Queen and that was her villain origin story. That was such a shaky story because she's always been fierce. She was just as fierce as Jane. Jane, we're given all these bogus rogue confessionals about how she's feeling super insecure, and that is meant to paint a picture that she's gonna eventually get in her own way later, when that wasn't the case. She didn't connect with the Karen challenge. She didn't get in her own way, and that is not her fault. The producers gassed her up in the beginning and they really liked her to suddenly get bored. And the show has many a times edited a queen to win a lip sync even if they didn't. Ginger Minj, look at queens like Jinx Monsoon in All Stars. Even in the beginning of this season, everybody, including Briar, thought that she was going to get eliminated the week that she first lip sync. They gave Kenya a bunch of wins in the edit even though she didn't know a lot of those words. The show chooses when they want a story to happen and when they want to push a queen to the next level. For whatever reason, they got bored with Jane and the edit did not support why. The edit didn't show Rue getting progressively bored with her. The edit showed Rue being interested in her. A great example of what happened to Jane is exactly what happened to Got Mick in season 9 of All Stars. They were so into Mick in the beginning of the season, and then out of nowhere they were bored. And they wanted nothing to do with her anymore. They shifted all of their attention to other queens. The edit is meant to help us understand how a queen got where they are. And they didn't do that with Jane. When I said that they put her in the bottom and eliminated her to piss y'all off, that is exactly what happened. They knew they gassed her up. They knew they put too many eggs in her basket. They didn't want to invest in her long term anymore. And so they sent her home to give you the shock out edit. The shock out edit is something that I'm working on a script for right now, and I plan on talking about this a little more extensively. The edit doesn't build up Jane's downfall. It supports that she is going to be an endgame player. The edit supports that Mikey is not going to go to the end. Everything I said about Jane last week is all about how the edit chose to portray her and how they portrayed a lot of this cast. The semi-finale of season 18 of Drag Race was a little bit of a nothing burger. We were presented some improv to make up for last week's bad improv challenge, AI slop, a redo of a lip sync that was just done excellently in Canada's Drag Race. We love when the franchises recycle their licensing. I want to address the AI slop first. What the f? This pissed me off, I'm not gonna lie. The Tic Tac lunch has been kind of watered down and bastardized over the years, but I think the best part of it is seeing Rue and Michelle connecting with these queens on a more personal level and getting to give them their flowers and celebrate them for the journey that they've had on the show, as well as their background and what brought them to this point in the competition. We get to see more of that heart come out and the veneer is pulled back on these characters. And Rue being there just to cosplay an artist only to hand the queens some AI slop art was so disrespectful to every single artist. And I cannot believe that production let this go through. And I hope that the entire crew feels embarrassed. Argue with the wall, that put me in such a bad mood. In that chat, it was kind of ironic that only two queens, Juicy and Nene, were fed the storyline. We don't really know who you are. Why are you not giving us more of that personality? Why are you not being more vulnerable? And I talked about this in a video not too long ago. The humanity that Drag Race used to ask for, that it sometimes asks for now. It's a thinly veiled opportunity for Rue and Co. to judge essentially however they want to. They can feed them some hot dog water critique that we don't see your human self. We don't know what that vulnerability is. And they can use that as a basis for why they're sticking someone in the bottom when that has actually no factor on what they're doing. When you tell someone, we want to see the real you in an improv comedy sketch in the semi-finale, that sounds like a laugh riot. This is a challenge to be funny, and some people just are not funny, and that's okay. Some people just don't have that comedy bone. They can't tickle your comedy pickle. Juicy was able to do well last week in the Karen challenge because she had the right resources to pull from and connect to a character. She was able to make that comedy happen. In RDR Live, she was working with Mikey, who had those references and could help feed her those so that she could break out. I mean, look at Jane Don't, someone who is really good at improv and flopped last week because she didn't have the Karen references. But Nini's not terribly funny. She was good in Snatch Game because she was prepared for it. Darlene is situationally funny, and she was great here, I think, because Mikey was her partner. And Mikey, I love her to death, and I think she objectively killed this challenge, was not giving daytime. They critiqued both Nini and Juicy for not being what daytime presentation needs. But yet they fed that exact same critique in a different font to Darlene and said she did all the wrong things. She should never be on daytime TV, but it worked. It's not that any of them did the challenge incorrectly. It's that 2 of them were funny and 2 of them were not. And also find me one person under the age of 38 that actively watches daytime TV. And even with that in mind, Mikey was playing this whole set like she was on SNL. That was not daytime TV energy to me at all. This is a challenge that is kind of hazy when it comes to how the judges are critiquing. Do they want it to be an authentic daytime television show as if you are real women sitting on a panel talking? Or do they want you to be draggy? Manila won the very first QNN daytime talk show news by breaking all of the rules, perpetuating stereotypes were the exact words that Rue used. You would never see a daytime anchor talking to a guest the way that she was. Whereas Stacey and India were in the bottom because they were playing a little too real, when in reality they just weren't entertaining. So that chops off the real women doing real things role, because in that sense they were kind of boring in the way that daytime presenters are. Sasha and Shay won their daytime TV segment because they were so farcical and comical and ridiculous. You would never see a daytime presenter with another daytime presenter both munching on chocolate and broccoli at the same time. You just wouldn't see that on TV. It would be too ridiculous. Anytime they do those food segments, they're really demure and they try to take small little bites. So that acts as the be real judgment as well. But it was funny. But then in this one, Nini and Juicy were critiqued specifically that they were not evoking that. But that's not what the issue is. It's not that they weren't being vulnerable. It's that they needed to be funny and they weren't. And the whole episode was trying to make this idea stick that they just weren't letting their guard, their shell down. But that wasn't the challenge. I feel like Leah Remini in season 6, but that wasn't their commercial. Did I like it? Absolutely not. I actually kind of hated both of them. I think they deserve their bottom placements. And I think it also doubled down that they had a very specific plan for this episode by putting it in duos. A duo improv challenge at the semifinal is such a out of left field choice. We could have had a sickening ball, but then Juicy would have won because she's the fashion queen. We could have had a fierce music video, but then Nini and Juicy would have been top 2 and they wouldn't have been able to eliminate them. And they would have had to have sent all 4 of them to the finale. We could have had a cool branding challenge, an improv challenge before the finale. It's giving Drag Race Thailand season 3 and I hate that. I know a lot of y'all have been saying in the comments that you love these queens and that you're enjoying this season, and I love that for you. I'm critiquing the overall production and I don't want any of these critiques to come off like I'm personally attacking the queens, because it's not their fault that the season is booger. It's not their fault that production has put such little effort into some queens and then so much effort into others. That's not their fault. It's the editors, it's the producers, it's RuPaul. And the lack of guidance this season has been frustrating me, and I'm noticing a lot more comments starting to turn around that people are also feeling that frustration. I don't have a ton to say about the actual challenge itself. Mikey and Darlene killed it because they already worked well together in the Rusical, they had good rapport, they are both objectively very funny people, and Mikey's focus was able to draw out some of Darlene's unfocusedness. That's why Darlene struggled last week. She's an unfocused improv artist, and RuPaul's an unfocused improv artist, so the two of them were just an explosion of what am I watching? Whereas Mikey is really solid in her direction. She knows where she wants to go with her comedy. So she's able to pull out some of that from Darlene as well. Whereas Nene is someone who is very overprepared. And if she does not prepare properly, she doesn't succeed. That happens a lot with perfectionists. People that want things to be done right. I'm the same exact way. If I have to be off the cuff and have to improv something really quick, I'm horrible at it. I have to think about my jokes ahead of time. I have to think about the words I'm gonna say ahead of time. I literally script every one of my videos so that I say the right words. Juicy is someone who just doesn't have the right comedy bones. She's a performer, but she's not that kind of performer. And so they were at an automatic imbalance. This is a challenge that could have been done really early in the season when there were a lot more of them. This honestly probably should have been an MV, or it should have been a ball, or literally anything else. This challenge I think was retained to rebalance the force of how bad the Karen challenge was, that we as the audience needed to be reminded, oh look, these are the funny queens. These are the front runners. And yes, they did get to choose each other. It could have gone a lot of different ways. We could have had Mikey and Nene together, and I think they would have split the difference and still put Nene and Juicy in the bottom. And beyond that, I found the challenge to be whatever. I'm not enchanted fiercely by the talk show daytime challenges. I like the original QNN, and then everything that's followed that I've been sort of like, okay, next. And on the runway, I enjoyed a lot of these looks. I think that it was really special that we got to see Juicy doing this homage to Morphine. I loved Nene's entire look. That was such a fantasy. The hand painting on that is immaculate. And I love the shape on those breasts. It was giving me a little Bosco in the season 14 entrance. I love how tacky and glam Darlene's was. I would wear that in a heartbeat. And then showing off those shoes, saying, I don't care that y'all don't like this, I like them. I love that she just doesn't care. And then Mikey was giving me the coolest Sims 2 wallpaper in the gallery. Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl was a great song for this part of the competition. It's funny how the lip sync started out sort of dated and old, and as the season went on, we got more modern songs. I found that interesting. I want to give a lot of props to Nene in particular for emoting so fiercely while in that restrained look, and she didn't peel it off like she could have. She could have followed what Juicy did and immediately taken everything off and gotten into a dance costume or a bikini or something, and then just turned out moves, but she chose to try and show that she can do something different. I appreciated that. Juicy was doing maybe too much, but I enjoyed the performance all the same. I do wish that she had left her costume on. I would have liked to have seen what she could do while not being so dancer girl. I know that's her thing, but that's what made Nene stand out, is that she is a dancer, but she didn't need to dance to that song. She could just emote and be fun. For me, Nene won it in the first few seconds. And with the Lollapalooza being all RuPaul songs next week, I'm really feeling like this is getting the Global All-Stars treatment. They put no effort into this semifinal because I think they just don't like these queens. And I said that very early on. I feel like this season is in a hurry to be done. I've been feeling like that for weeks. And I think that this RuPaul only song, Extravaganza, kind of proves that. I do plan on doing a restructuring of this season and sharing the challenges as I think they should have been laid out to give a better story overall, because I think that this season wasn't managed the best. What y'all think about this episode? Let me know in the comments below. I may do some kind of AMA next week instead of covering too much of the Lollapalooza. I can't imagine there's gonna be a ton to talk about. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. I will see y'all on the flip. We get people like that's not necessary.